All right, welcome to this information session with WilmerHale. We're thrilled to have Liz Collins here with us. We're going to start off. Liz is going to provide a brief overview about WilmerHale, and then we're going to have some opportunities for Q&A. So for students, if you can please put your questions in chat and direct them either to myself or my colleague, Kevin Keneally. We're going to go through the questions, and then we'll pose them to Liz a little bit later in the session. So Liz, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Kate and Kevin. Thanks so much for having me. Good afternoon, everyone. So as Kate mentioned, I'm Liz Collins. I am the staff recruiting manager at WilmerHale. I do sit in the Boston office, but as you'll see, we have lots of offices throughout the country and overseas as well. I have been with WilmerHale for quite some time now. I joined actually right after undergraduate, so I went to Providence College. I'm originally from upstate New York in Syracuse, so go Orange Men if anybody's on the line from there. Knew I wanted kind of a career in HR. I had an internship there in Rhode Island through that, and was super fortunate to find this opportunity with, at the time, was a law firm that I'd never heard of called Hale and Dorr. And I have really grown my career there. I actually left because I had to relocate out of the state for a couple of years and was fortunate to come back and have really had a variety of opportunity at the firm. And I think what you'll see today is that there is so much variety at the firm and opportunity. Something that I always tell really anybody who I'm interviewing or talking to, any candidates about, but particularly undergraduate students or students who are just, kind of venturing off into kind of the real world after undergraduate school, is that WilmerHale is a firm that is all about, if you're willing to work and add value and offer to go kind of above and beyond what your kind of basic job description responsibilities are, that's really where you're going to succeed, where you're going to be able to grow. We don't have a ton of levels at our firm. We're somewhat of a flatter organization, but the opportunity, it's great because you can really kind of do whatever you'd like, if you're really, again, hard worker and willing to kind of put in the effort there. So I have a pretty short agenda today. I thought I'd take about 15 or 20 minutes just to talk a little bit about WilmerHale, why people come to WilmerHale and stay for a very long time, although I don't expect everyone to stay. I think, my philosophy over the past several years has been, if we can bring in great talent, have them really contribute a lot to the firm in whatever practice group or department they're in, and then they're able to either grow within the firm, that's awesome, or take a new opportunity from what they've learned at the firm, then I think that's equally successful. So I'll talk a little bit about who we are, why you would be interested in working with WilmerHale. I'm just going to touch on a few opportunities that we regularly have for new grads, and then we can certainly open it up to any questions. So just to give a little background about the firm, I mentioned that when I joined, it was Hale and Dorr, and it was a Boston-based firm established in 1918. We just had our 100-year anniversary a couple of years back. Wilmer Cutler Pickering was equally as prestigious a firm that was based out of our Washington, D.C. office. And in 2004, I can't believe it's almost been 20 years, we merged. It was a merger of equals. So we have this really long name called Wilmer Cutler Pickering Hale and Dorr, otherwise known as WilmerHale. So we merged in 2004. So most people who have joined the firm don't know one or the other. But I only mention this because there's a deep, a lot of history basically in the clients that we served and have served throughout the years. Both as two separate firms, but also more recently, as one united firm. These are our offices. So you'll see our US offices. Boston and DC are pretty much our largest firms in terms of headcount. New York's right behind that. And then we have 3 offices in California and then our Denver, Colorado office. In 2010, we opened up Business Services Center in our Dayton, Ohio office, and that is where a lot of our service departments are housed. So most of our our finance team is there, our service desks or our call centers, hospitality teams, things like that sit there. But we have lots of different support opportunities throughout the firm in many of our offices. You'll see our global offices, Beijing, Berlin, Brussels, Frankfurt, and London. We partner with them all the time on many, legal matters, HR matters, whatever the case may be. So total, we're a little under 2,000 employees, half of whom are attorneys. So this is the biggest thing I think for you all. Why would I want to work at a law firm? And I used to think that myself. And when I would go to job fairs or anything at colleges, I got a lot of, "What are you?" And we're a law firm, and people would say, "Oh, I don't want to be a lawyer, so there must not be any opportunity for me there." And that is 100% not true. So while half of our employees are lawyers, and they're amazing lawyers, there's a ton of opportunity if you are thinking about being a lawyer or going to law school or not. We have a whole team of support staff who are not lawyers, never planned on being lawyers, but love working in a law firm for so many reasons. Um, and part of that is what you'll see here. I'm just going to kind of touch on some of the things that WilmerHale offers to our staff, and then we can kind of go into opportunities for you all. When you join the firm, no matter what position you are assigned to a mentor. It's our staff mentoring program, and it's, historically, we kind of tried to match people within that same office so that you could go to coffee or lunch together. And obviously, the world has kind of changed. So it's great because we are able to match you up with, just somebody who might have similar interests to you, maybe who's been in the position that you're joining, but who, has been in it a little longer than you have. And it's just a really, when you're joining a big firm, first job out of college, it's just kind of nice to have somebody other than your direct manager to kind of ask questions to, and or go to lunch with, and just kind of help you, show you around the place. So that's something that's been really beneficial. It's a year program, and after the year, we actually ask the mentees if they would like to be a mentor program, part of the mentor program. So that's been really, really helpful in terms of onboarding and integrating new staff to the firm. Our diversity and inclusion programs are huge. We have a whole team devoted to recruiting, retaining, developing, providing interesting work, ensuring that all of our staff and attorneys are included and looked after, right? And that, we have different councils and different committees, both on the staff and the attorney side, that are responsible only in 100% and only for the diversity inclusion of our employees. And so there's a ton of events, programs, speaker sessions that this group handles and puts on for all staff. And then there's, mentoring and guidance within there, kind of one-on-one opportunities too. This is something that's been growing over the years. We've always been committed to diversity inclusion, and now, like, our clients care about it. Our clients want to understand kind of, what are the work assignments, what are the backgrounds of individuals who are going to be working on this legal team. So it's continuing to be important. And so there's a very large interest in diversity inclusion at the firm. Culturally, I just got a question this morning from an interview I was on, and I get it pretty much in every kind of first round interview that I have, and that is, tell me about the culture of the firm. What is it like to work at WilmerHale? And I always really describe that in a few different ways. So because there's kind of there's a firm culture, and then there's an office culture, and each office has its own kind of nuances and personalities to it. But I would say, from a firm perspective, we are very much a community. We work across offices. You saw the offices that we have. We're constantly calling each other. We work across administrative departments, across practice groups sometimes. We understand that we are all here to provide a service to our clients, which are our lawyers. And whatever we need to do, help each other out, connect with each other, we do it, and we do it in a super professional, high quality way. If you work at WilmerHale, you kind of come in knowing that there's very high expectations. The work product that you deliver, regardless of what position, what level you're at, has to be very high. But you get a lot back for that, right? It's very rewarding, it's very satisfactory, and you become a very valued member of whatever team you're part of, by putting in your all, right? So some days can be really crazy. Sometimes the day-to-day work may not be super exciting, but you may be on a team that's working with these amazing clients, who are making headline news. I always say I do get a little jealous of the DC office because they're working, many of our lawyers are working with individuals on the Hill and in our congressional groups, and it's just, literally headline making news, that you see there. So that there's always a buzz in the DC office going on about what's going on in the news and how WilmerHale is part of that. So that's kind of how I would describe our culture, the values. If anyone goes to our website, you'll see kind of a motto that really, really resonates, and that is hard work, teamwork, everyone matters. And that is truly, truly how it is working at WilmerHale. You definitely feel like part of a team, and that whatever work you're doing contributes to kind of a larger goal. The clients that we work on, like I said, some are headline making. We have so many different practice areas. They're kind of bucketed into five kind of main practice groups, and that's our litigation, our transactional, our intellectual property, our regulatory and government affairs, and our securities groups. And then within there, there's lots of many different practice groups that kind of fall under there. So there may be a big merger and acquisition that we're working on. There may be a trial happening with a big corporation. There could be a patent taking place that we're helping to process with a new invention or something new that might be on the market soon. So it's really cool just to kind of see what goes into all of that and to be part of that and making a difference for our clients. So that's really, really exceptional. A large reason why people come to WilmerHale over maybe another law firm is our pro bono and public service. So on the pro bono side, we generally, each year we kind of get an overview of the number of pro bono hours, provided to lots of clients. And generally that's about 100,000 hours per year that we give to our clients. That's a lot. I think it's pretty impressive. If you think about somebody who's billable who might charge, $300-400 an hour, it's a lot of money. And then we also have a ton of public service opportunities. And I think this is what really keeps people engaged with the firm and, keep, interested in continuing to help. Our focus as a firm is youth and education. So we do a ton of programs with local organizations in each of our offices to develop our youth. So literally just Tuesday, we had a resume workshop where any volunteer, any staff or attorney could work with I think we had about 30 students from a local Boston high school, juniors and seniors who were working on their resumes, looking for summer jobs, looking for jobs after graduation. And so we just worked one-on-one with them very much like this over Zoom in breakout rooms to kind of help them with, just making their resume look a little bit more dynamic and stand out from all the other people who might be applying for summer jobs. So that's one example. We do mock trials with individuals. We'll do mock depositions, have students come in as witnesses, will be judges in a trial, so that's really fun. So there's just a lot of opportunity to get involved on the public service and in the pro bono teams as well if you work at WilmerHale. And then I think the biggest reason why people work here and stay here is the people they're working with. Like I mentioned, the individuals here are dynamic, very forward thinking. Just to be part of these legal teams or administrative teams is really a huge opportunity to develop yourself, question, learn to push back, learn to question, learn to just maybe not do, the norm. I think there's so much opportunity in terms of mentoring and leadership at the firm that really allows you to grow and decide where you want to go in your path. Maybe you started in one space and helped out another group and now you're kind of thinking, well, maybe that's a good path for me. So definitely a lot of opportunity there to meet a ton of people, network. We have so many people who I've known as summer interns who return, maybe a couple years, and then they go to law school, and then they come back as a summer associate and then a first year associate. So I'm definitely aging myself, but there's so many, it's just lovely to see people start when they're maybe in college or right after college and then return as a lawyer or anybody else on the staff side. So these are just some things I put together. I think we have a mix on the call of maybe upcoming, individuals who might be graduating now, maybe people who are still in school. I'm not sure if they're, rising sophomores and juniors or seniors, but wanting to just share a couple of our opportunities that we regularly have at the firm. Our project assistants are probably the most popular option for individuals who are coming out of undergraduate school. Um, Generally speaking, they're people who are thinking law school. They're either thinking or they're pretty sure they're going to law school, but not right away, want to take a couple years off to get some kind of firm experience to really solidify that decision. Law school is expensive. It's a ton of time. It's not easy. And so it's a really big decision. And so sometimes, coming in as a project assistant and really kind of understanding the day-to-day life of a lawyer is super helpful. So oftentimes we'll bring in several, usually I'd say in Boston, New York, or DC. I know we have a couple openings now there. But sometimes we will have some on the West Coast and in Denver. And what they do is they come in and they are assigned, they're primarily in our litigations group and securities teams, and they are assigned to various legal matters, and they help with really anything and everything. So they're, prepping for depositions, they're pulling together information, they're updating the whole legal team on, where we are in a case. If there's, if we're prepping for trial, it's like striking gold because it's a lot of work, but it's really, really interesting to see that whole life cycle of prepping for trial and going through the trial. So that's nice because there's other project assistants generally right out of school. It's a nice network of coworkers where you can kind of, if you're taking the LSATs or you're prepping to take the LSATs, there's just a lot of camaraderie that you're able to build there. If law school is not your thing, or you don't, you didn't really have any thoughts about being a lawyer, that's okay too. We have plenty of other staff positions. Like I said, when I joined the firm, I came right out of college and became an HR assistant and kind of moved around from there in a variety of roles. And that's just, very much how it is. So if you've had internships in marketing or technology or finance positions, we have it all. We are an organization that has all of those kind of support staff positions. And, if you've had the opportunity to work in those capacities, either through summer jobs or on campus or in any capacity, then there's definitely opportunity here. So I just kind of listed coordinator because that's generally kind of the first level that you might move into. But then we have, specialists, senior specialists, managers, directors, lots of different levels kind of as you continue in your career. And then for anybody who's not quite at the graduate level, we do offer some internships. They are a little bit more limited, but we've had kind of pockets. We have a paralegal internship. Usually in the Boston office, we have one intern in each of our offices on our legal recruiting side. We do have some high school programs that obviously this group isn't eligible for anymore, but there are, from time to time we will kind of post, if a department just really needs some extra help, we'll just kind of post those one-offs. So certainly look for those as well. Everything's online. So we are at WilmerHale.com when you can kind of navigate from there to find our job openings. We do have right now, for anybody who is kind of thinking about that project assistant piece, we have a corporate project assistant opening in the Boston office. We have a litigation project assistant that just opened in our New York office. And then I think we have 2 project assistants on the litigation side in our DC office. So this is actually a really good time. We know that people are graduating and that they're probably starting to look for opportunities. So that's when we generally open those positions around the spring, because we know everybody's kind of out looking for those. So that's really my spiel. I am happy to answer any questions that may have come in, or I can just keep talking, whatever you'd like, Kate.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm going to start off with 1 or 2 questions, but please don't forget you can put them in the chat to either myself and my colleague Kevin Keneally, and we will go from there. My first question is just the difference between a project assistant and paralegal. Is it the same thing, or are there any differences? And is there any sort of time commitment you need to make in a project assistant role in terms of staying with WilmerHale for a certain amount of time?
Yeah, thank you for asking both of those questions, because I do usually mention that and I forgot. But yeah, so the project assistant position is really your kind of junior or entry level paralegal. If you decide that, so there's a couple things that could happen. You can be a project assistant we do have a 2-year commitment, so we do ask that, just because there is some training involved, and if you do get assigned to a case, they could go on for a very long time. So we do hope that you stay for about 2 years at least. You can stay longer though. So if some people will stay to that 2-year and then go off to law school. Some will stay to that 2-year and decide they don't want anything to do with law school or the legal environment and go do something else. And I feel like that's success too, because at least we've helped you make one decision in life. But many times, and I see this more and more, we have individuals who, just decide, hey, I don't know if law school is right to me, but I love the firm and I love what I'm doing and I want to stay. So from there, you can move into a senior project assistant, which is generally after a couple years, and then a paralegal and a senior paralegal. And then, there's legal project managers, there's project managers, there's, practice managers. So there's lots of opportunity if you do decide that, you want to make that your career rather than kind of going into law school.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm getting a lot of questions, so I'm going to try to read through these. Some great questions here. I think kind of following along with that, does anyone ever continue working in one of those roles and then potentially go to law school while they're in that role? Is that feasible? And is there any tuition remission or anything like that included?
Yeah. We do have people who will go at night to law school, while they stay in those roles. I think the challenge with that is that both are very time consuming, right? So whether you're a project assistant, the project assistant time can kind of ebb and flow depending on what matters are coming through. Sometimes you're working a lot of overtime. Sometimes you're traveling, in a different world, and I don't know how the future will look, but our project assistants they were on a rotating schedule to Puerto Rico for a client, or to Switzerland, Zurich. So it's a great opportunity if you're open to kind of going wherever we need you to go. Sometimes it's New Hampshire, sometimes it's downtown Boston, but so the time commitment sometimes can really be challenging if you're going to law school, is because law school is super challenging and time consuming. So can it be done? Yes, we've had people who are doing that, but it's just just being clear on the expectations that they're both very demanding jobs, so to speak. And so usually people will leave, and as I mentioned, oftentimes come back as a summer associate and then as a fall associate after they continue law school. So that we see all the time. But doing both is just it's a lot on the time.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Another question about the project assistants. How early should you apply? In terms of if you're graduating in May, how early should you apply for one of these positions? And then along those lines, what would be the start date for a project assistant?
Yep. So you should apply now. We are interviewing right now for all of those that I mentioned. We actually just hired somebody. I hired her about a month ago in our congressional team in the DC office. She's not joining till June 7th because she doesn't graduate till the end of May, and she needs to move here from California. So we're pretty flexible on start dates. Some undergrads want to take the summer off and just kind of relax for a little bit and start in the fall. that might not be possible. If we need the position, we do want you to start. And we also want a little bit of overlap between the people who are leaving to go to law school. And sometimes they want to take the summer off. So we can't keep them to stay, but we can ask that you join, generally. So if somebody's graduating in May or early June, we just work with them. We have start dates every other, well, we have pretty much start dates every week, but they alternate depending on what location you're in. But now that it's virtual, it's a little bit more flexible. And so, I would say end of May, early sometime in June, we would love to start those PAs.
Perfect. Great. Another question, I know you can't probably go into too much detail, but if you could talk a little bit more about the types of cases and clients that you work with. I know it's a broad range, but any detail you can provide on that would be great.
Yeah, let me think about that. So on the corporate transactional side, a ton of mergers, acquisitions. We have a like a startup group that helps start new companies. So that's all in our corporate group. The litigation is anytime you see somebody going to trial, right? So there's a lot of IP litigation that we're very, very busy IP litigation practice. And that is, this big tech company is doing the same thing that that big tech company did last year, and now there's argument about patents and things like that. So we support any of that. Regulatory, any legislation that you see coming through, any administrations is being, there's lots of kind of private organizations that are related to that our teams will help guide and counsel and provide some strategy on kind of in that space. So yeah, I can't talk about the specific clients, but that's really what you'll see. If you're a project assistant, again, you'll primarily work in the litigation and securities or the corporate group, which is what we have in Boston. And that is a ton of just, resources, gathering information, pulling together information to, present to the partner. You're working with paralegals, really every level. So paralegals, associates, up through partner. And I think one of the best things about being a project assistant is just that, the teams that you're on. So you really just kind of get to know these amazing lawyers. They like to share their experience and their opinions on kind of what you should do in life. So it's nice. They're very there's a very strong sense of mentorship, from the lawyers to the more junior teams, and I think that just adds so much value to your role. In addition, I mean, some of the job is not very exciting, right? Sometimes you're putting binders together, or you're updating case team files and things like that. But just having that experience of learning from the best, and meeting the clients and working on that client work is pretty rewarding.
Absolutely. Great. I had a couple questions here about how applicants can really stand out. Any specific tips on their resume and or cover letter, things that could really make them stand out as a strong applicant in this process?
Yeah, so when you apply online, you are not required to submit a cover letter. And people have a lot of opinions on cover letters. I actually love them. I think it takes a little bit more effort to kind of tailor your cover letter for the position for which you're applying, and it's work, right? But I want to know that you're in it. You're not just blasting off your resume to a million different firms. In the cover letter, I like to know that you've done like a little bit of research on who we are and why we might be interesting to you versus the hundreds of other firms that might have the similar position. So I do appreciate a short, not super lengthy, but short cover letter, just kind of introducing yourself. Now I have a million, I mean, LinkedIn is like, the way to communicate. So I interact a lot with people. If I post a position online or on LinkedIn, candidates are constantly messaging me, hey, can I set up, an informational phone call, just to kind of learn about the firm. I do those all the time. So if, we may not have a position open right away, but if somebody wants to reach out because they've been on this call or they, saw something that came in the news of WilmerHale and want to learn about employment opportunities, I may say, I don't have anything for you right now, but happy to talk and share what I know and keep you kind of in mind. And that way that kind of keeps, it's the name that will stand out when a position opens up. I'll say, oh, you know what? I met this awesome person like a month ago or 2 months ago. I don't know if she's got a job yet, but let me reach out and see if she's still available. So those are some ideas that I think, allow you to kind of stand out more so than just kind of going through the resume pile.
And on the resume, do you want a one-page resume or any guidelines along
Yeah,
those?
I mean, I think for somebody coming right out of school, 1 page is probably good. I don't need, you know, put on there what you feel is applicable in terms of the work that you've done. For resumes of individuals, we look a lot at, how you've interacted with teams. So if you've been in sports or if you've led, a committee, an organization, or something in addition to the coursework that you've done. Those are important to know. I think you've probably all been versed on how to write a resume by now, but those are things we really do look for, and that those stand out. So I would say, teamwork, attention to detail on the resume, just have 5 other people look at your resume, and you know there's always something you can like tweak a little bit. So just I am a bit of a stickler for things like that. So periods and any grammatical errors I'll ping for sure. My kids always, I drive them crazy because we'll go to a restaurant and I'll open a menu and it's got a spelling error on it, and it just kind of drives me crazy. So I'm a stickler for that. But and then in terms of the length, I think for anyone coming out of school, 1 page is probably enough, but I'm not gonna pass on it if it goes over.
Okay, that's super helpful to hear. Thank you. We get that question quite a bit. I had another question about internships. Are they mainly for people kind of junior into senior year, or are you also open to someone after they graduate for an internship?
Yeah, they're usually undergrads, I'd say sophomore to junior, rising, I guess rising junior, rising senior, is pretty much just because they generally have a little more experience. But it's not, it really depends on what the internship is and what they're looking for. We've had some discussions lately about creating kind of a larger internship program, where you kind of maybe rotate throughout some departments just to kind of get a taste of that. That's not decided yet, but we're trying to kind of look at different options for our internship programs. And so right now we generally, the work that they're required to do, we like to see if somebody's been in an office environment and just kind of knows basic office etiquette and things like that. If they don't, we'll train you on that. We're really good at letting you know kind of do's and don'ts of working in a professional office. But yeah, I mean, if you're a freshman on the call, put your hat, throw your hat in for sure. I wouldn't want to I wouldn't want to discourage somebody, but generally just based on their experience that they've had, they do need a couple of years under their belt.
Great. Back to the cover letter. Are you the right person to address the cover letter to? Is there someone else that receives
Yeah,
those?
I don't necessarily recruit for every position that we have, but I'm the funnel, right? So I can always, pass it on to somebody, or if you submit it through our applicant tracking, nobody's going to be upset if my name's on there. They all know me and they understand why my name's on there. So my name's
Makes sense.
also on the, I think I'm on the who to contact on our website for staff positions. And so I get it all the time.
Perfect. Okay. And I did have another question about the internships. Are they paid, or is there a stipend or any?
Yeah,
Paid?
they are paid. I think now that they historically have been $15 an hour. They may have just recently moved to $18 an hour. I'm sorry, don't quote me on that, but somewhere around there. And that's usually, depending on the office, either 35, 37 and a half or 40-hour work week.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So pretty much. So, and are they only in the summer, or would they also be in the fall and spring?
Generally speaking, the internships are through the summer. We do have a co-op program relationship in our Boston office where they work like 6 months full time on and off through Northeastern. So that's something separate where it's a little bit more unique. But generally speaking, most of our regular internships are during the summer for like 8 or 10 weeks.
Perfect. Yeah. So then you could focus more full time on the internship. Great.
Right.
Yeah, I have a couple questions about where they can find internship applications online. Is there a specific place on the website?
So if we have an internship opportunity, it will be posted under our job openings, and then they can go there. If we don't have anything right now, we actually don't for the summer, they can email me their resume and I just kind of store it. And if an opportunity becomes available, then I'll reach out to them that way.
Perfect. Okay. And for everyone, if you want to reach out, just email me. I will put my email in the chat in just a second, and then I can connect you to Liz.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I had another question about kind of how things look at the moment in terms of remote. How is that working for the internships as well as the full-time positions?
Yeah, it's anyone's guess actually, but we have been remote for the past year, as I think the rest of the world has been. We are able to go into the office, so I've gone a couple times. Certain legal groups might be going in. Obviously, we have to stay with the capacity limits and all of that, but they're really, for the most part, people have been working remotely, and that's worked out fine. That we will be back. We are planning to return. I don't know exactly when that will look like or what it will look like, but we do really value, and we put a lot of value in that kind of FaceTime with each other. A lot of awesome ideas come up by just walking to the cafeteria together, or we have most of our office, we have fitness centers. So going to a class at the gym together, you're chatting, and there's just a lot of opportunity to talk about things that maybe I may not think to call a coworker about, or an idea that I had if I'm just sitting here in my house. So we put a lot of value on that, both at the in the department level as well as in the legal teams. Just having an associate talk to a senior associate or counsel about some work that they're doing. It just happens a little bit more organically if you're in the office. And so we feel that's a very important part of our own development and staff development and collaboration. So we will go back. I don't know when that will be, and I don't know if I think they'll probably be some flexibility in that in terms of how many days a week and everything. So we're working on that. We haven't gotten it sorted out, but for now we've done, I think the firm's done an awesome job this year of encouraging, again, back to that kind of community, right? So encouraging people to connect. We have a ton of, without going too heavy on the Zoom calls and the events, we do have a lot of them. They're very fun. When we do trivia, and we did a ton of things for Black History Month and Women's History Month. And so those are volunteer opportunities that you could just kind of jump on a game, do a game or something like that. So those have been ways in which we've tried to kind of connect each other throughout the year. But we are very much looking forward to going to grab lunch together and grab a coffee, and all that. So we'll get there.
Completely understand. You've already touched on this just a little bit, but are there specific extracurricular activities you really like to see on the resume?
I think any extracurricular activity. So everyone's got their own interests, right? And I wouldn't want to limit that, to a sport or government, position or something like that. But I do think it says a lot about somebody if you're interested in kind of getting involved. In addition to the job that you might have here, we do have, I'm on a ton of committees and working groups, and that gives me the opportunity to, again, interact with people who may not be, I may not be recruiting for, or they may not be in human resources, but we're all on this committee now where we have to think a little bit larger picture, and just getting to know those other people on the committee who I may not have had the opportunity to do that with if I were just doing my job. It's just a great opportunity. So for somebody who, right now is getting involved, maybe they're on, different groups at the school, different clubs, organizations. I would definitely highlight all that. And I actually, I met with 2 high school students for this resume thing, and I was trying to. They didn't have any of that, and and I, like, what did you do? Oh, you're on the yearbook committee. Put that on there. I want to know about it. So, um, I think it doesn't really matter what the committee is or what the club is, whatever your interest in is. I would put it on there to show that you are interested in doing more than kind of straight just going to class. I think that tells me a lot about you. Um, it- Music, dance, any of the arts is great to see. I think there's a ton of discipline that comes with those, as well as being on a sports team. So those are all great things to see. And I often hear from managers, if I have 2 candidates who are equally, great academic background, great interview, but we can only maybe pick one. I have heard from hiring managers to say, well, you know what, look at how involved this person is. They definitely want to do, a lot. They want to contribute a lot. And so we may go with that person.
Great. Okay, I think I just have 1 or 2 more questions. The paralegal internship that you mentioned, is that only for people who've already graduated, or would that one also be open to people who are currently enrolled?
Yeah, that's only for undergrads. So again, those are, I believe, they're pretty strict about rising junior, rising senior, or they have been in recent years. It's located in the Boston office. Doesn't mean it's just for Boston. So if you're in UMD and you have an opportunity to be in Boston for a summer, you can certainly apply. We take people from all over. It's a great program. It's very popular. So it's hard to get a slot. They only hire about 7 or 8 students per summer, because we want to make sure that it's they're able to get interesting work and do a lot, so we don't want to kind of dilute the program by having 100 kids and just having them file all day. So it is a smaller program, but they do pretty cool stuff while they're on there.
Yeah, that sounds like it. I had another question. Someone who's interested in going into like a pretty specific type of law down the road, potentially going to law school, like environmental law.
Mhm.
If someone's interested in that path, is it still a good idea to do something like a project assistant role, even if maybe you're not touching tons of environmental clients? Would it still be a good preparation prior to going to law school?
Absolutely. We do have an awesome environmental team, just so you
Oh, we
know.
do. Oh, okay.
We do. We don't, there aren't project assistants in that group though. So if you came on board and you worked as a litigation project assistant, I mean, there's some fundamental kind of a foundation of being a lawyer that you will get to see regardless of the practice groups you're in. So some are a little bit different. Like again, corporate versus litigation is pretty different in terms of the types of work, but generally speaking, you're working on client teams, you're getting assignments, you're doing some research, you're kind of understanding the important, your billing time, right? That's a huge part of being a lawyer is billing. So you kind of learn those basic things. And then you can reach out to our environmental, counsel, who might be, we highlight our lawyers all the time internally and externally. But there's lots of cool things that are coming internally that we kind of like to communicate out on. And it's just a great opportunity to say, hey, I work in litigation in the DC office. I see you're in Denver in the environmental group, thinking of law school. Can I pick your brain? It's great access. So again, it's much easier to get to internally than on the outside, if you just randomly link in with an environmental attorney. So yeah, absolutely, it's worth it.
Perfect. That's great to hear. I think that's the last question that I have gotten in. So I think we can go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you so much. We can give you a
Great.
virtual round of applause. I am
Thank you
going
for
to,
having me. It's been great.
of
And if
course,
anybody has questions, Kate has my contact information. Happy to connect on LinkedIn or however you'd like.
perfect. And I put in the chat my email address, so students feel free to email me. I'm going to stop